we can turn on the TV or the radio or social media and it's menopause, and it is,
Yeah.
you know. So all of a sudden women stopped taking HRT and doctors stopped prescribing it.
But I've never felt so welcome in my life as I did when I came into H&MV.
Is there a timeline, actually?
So if you're under 40 and you're menopausal, you know, you really need to be seeing your GP about that. The big thing I suppose to get across is there is no scientific, medical, good research to say this is brilliant, take this one.
From a male perspective, how can we support?
Yeah, it's a tricky one as well for you, and it's hard.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining us today. This is part of the H&MV podcast series. My name is Claire Dwyer. I'm onboarding and engagement specialist working out of Ireland. We have Mike Collins here, who is our Health and Safety Director for Ireland as well. And we have Aisling Mulcahy here, who is working as part of the Menopause Unit out of the Nenagh Hospital. And she's joining us today for our conversation about menopause, which is going to be part of our Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Awareness Month, and that's happening this June. Welcome, Aisling.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome today.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Aisling, and your role and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for inviting me in here to speak this morning. So my role I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse specialist in menopause, and I'm currently working in the complex menopause clinic in Nenagh, which is obviously HSE hospital. And I'm there now about 2-ish years. So it's a complex clinic. So we see ladies who have a complex medical history who are going through a menopause. So we see ladies who have a history of breast cancer, who might have had a heart attack, a stroke, a clot, or just really tricky past medical history. So basically we see about 5% of the women going through menopause who have horrible symptoms. The other 95% are actually managed really well by their GPs. And we're very lucky actually in the Midwest. There's a lot of GPs who are very interested in menopause. But yeah, we see the 5%.
So they would be referred to you from the GP if the GP can't manage the treatment?
Exactly. So for example, my background is actually oncology, so I would have been oncology trained and I would have worked in UHL and oncology for years and look mainly after ladies with a breast cancer diagnosis. And they often, once they start their treatment for cancer, they go into menopause, and like literally overnight, they might be 39, they might be 47. Age, we know with cancer, age doesn't matter. So all literally overnight, and then they go into they potentially can have a horrible time. Then those ladies, ideally we don't want to put them on a hormone to fix their breast cancer, because breast cancer can be hormone related. So because of that, they're kind of left out there. That nobody knows what to do with them. So when I was in that job in UHL for years, you'd get so many calls from those women. Their cancer would be behind them, the treatment behind them, their hair is back, they're trying to get back to living their normal life, but they can't, they're just having a horrible time of different symptoms, which we might get into later. But a lot of the time it's, isn't it great your cancer is gone? Oh, your mammogram was clear. And they're like, yeah, no, it is great, but I've all these other horrible things going on. And everyone's afraid to touch them. So I used to hear that story nearly every day at work from the ladies, say the survivorship ladies, not the ladies going through treatment. And so anyway, when I saw this job coming up, I was like, oh my God, that's so really, really needed. So anyway, went for it, and here we are. And most of our patients, like 30%, are the ladies with a history of breast cancer. So they're they're not the straightforward. The straightforward go to your GP.
Yeah. Okay. It must be very rewarding, actually.
It is, and you know what?
But challenging, I would imagine.
Yeah. So now, actually, what's lovely about the job is some of the ladies who I would have met during their treatment. Now I'm seeing them kind of 3-4 years later, and I'm going, oh God, we didn't manage that at all. You know, that side of it, because in the HSE and in oncology, the focus is, and everybody's focus, the patient included, is when am I starting? What drugs am I getting? Do I need help at home? Will my hair fall out? Will I be sick? Yeah. But then it's afterwards, and we discharge them. Oncology discharges, and then they're left with other side effects that are not cancer related. Right. So yeah, no, it is. It's actually lovely. And now you have time in this role. You actually have time, like we have 40 minutes per patient to see them when they come in, and to go through, like lay it all out on the table, and try and get down to the nitty-gritty and try and help.
God, you'd need that though, to go through
Yeah.
like all the symptoms and everything with them.
Yeah.
It's great that they're given the time.
Yeah, but they're only the 5%. The rest then should really be, with menopause symptoms, and should be managed with their GPs.
And is there a typical age, Aisling, as regards when you see trends as regards women with breast cancer, and like, is it after a certain age and is it before a certain age, or is it can be anything?
There's no trend with breast cancer. Lots in around 40s and 50s, 60s, but you do have a few 30-year-olds, and you could even have a 20-year-old, but that would be rare.
Yeah.
But middle 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, yeah.
Right. Okay, so you can develop at any time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when do you start screening for breast cancer? I know that's something that
50. So 50, breast check, 50. So once you turn 50, and often some ladies will say, oh yeah, I'm 50 now, I'm waiting to be invited, invited to go for your mammogram, but you need to be active yourself, you need to go online and just register, and it's just your PPS number. And
That's good to know, actually, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah.
But if you're any concerns, talk to your GP.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember my own mum had it, and unfortunately she passed away
I'm
when I
sorry
was
about that.
when I was 14, I think.
God, I
but
was very young.
I think the supports that time were completely different, obviously,
Yeah.
from the sports that were there this time, because we just didn't have a clue. No, I was young at the time. No. But yeah, it was really, look, something like that happens, yeah, I suppose when you were that young, but it's great to hear that there's way more support.
Though thankfully there is. There's still some very sad stories, but there definitely should be more support available now.
Yeah, good. That's good to hear.
Very good. Very good. And I suppose you're kind of working in an area of equality, diversity and inclusion, working in the menopause area.
Yeah.
What kind of initiatives have you done, or have you done other kind of talks or awareness
Yeah,
sessions?
so we've done lots of talks. Now, most of our talks would be kind of in-house, kind of HSE related, but actually we were involved in a really big webinar there, which is actually online. If any of your team want to watch it, it was a webinar called Menopause and Me. We ran it in February or March, and it was a really, really good one. It just touched on everything menopause, all the general stuff, what to ask your GP, symptoms, lifestyle, diet, exercise, the importance of screening, like we said, breast check, smears, like all that is there for us women. We just you need to, when you get your invitation, you need to go. And so we were expecting about maybe 400 to listen, but we had about maybe 1,500. The internet, we broke the internet.
Nice, nice achievement.
Yes, and actually we're up for an award next Wednesday. The HSE is called Bright Sparks Award. Menopause and Me, so that was out to everybody. That wasn't just HSE. Obviously, it was ran by us and the wellness team in UHL. But it was for everybody, and we were really, really aware that it needed to be very simple language. It needed to reach everybody, very diverse. So hopefully, because the numbers were so good, we're hoping that it did. And we had a lot of speakers on the night, ladies from different backgrounds, so I think it did hit that nail on the head. Yeah. That was the aim of that one.
Very good.
Yeah.
And is there like a plan to do something like that again? Is there like an online resource that people can access?
Yeah, there's lots of things. So that I can send you that link, Clara. Yeah, it's really good. I would totally recommend that one if you're trying to. The thing about menopause at the moment, and I know my husband would say, is it just because you're working in the area or what? Because he said he can't turn on the TV or the radio or say social media, and it's menopause, and it is, and things have changed. Like maybe 20 years ago, my mom now is in her 70s, and you didn't say the word menopause, and you didn't have a menopause unless you had hot flushes. Right. And if you didn't have hot flushes, you didn't have a menopause. So she would say, well, I had no menopause. And we're going, you totally did.
Yeah.
And now 20 years later, everything is menopause. So it was 2001. There was an outpouring of frustrated people. So Davina McCall, the TV presenter from the UK, she did a show in the UK, and then Joe Duffy, Liveline, for I think like maybe 3 or 4 days every day was about women who are having horrible symptoms of menopause, and the whole lot started slowly but surely to change. So what happened was around 20-ish years ago, there was a study published, and it dissed HRT. Right. And no news like good news.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, women stopped taking HRT and doctors stopped prescribing it. But then in 2015, they went back to look at all that evidence, and it was really, really sketchy. It wasn't like they had women say in their 80s who they were researching, whereas, they're not the women that we would see in the clinic.
Yeah.
They were researching a type of HRT that we've never used in Ireland. It was actually, it's a tablet form, and it was used in America. A very good tablet, it has its uses, but that's we use all transdermal, which is by the skin in Ireland, most of the time. But so that all of that information, like a lot of it was just not, it wasn't what it said what it was trying to say, that negative. So there's a lot of backpedaling being done since 2015, but you still have people who say, oh God, no, that gives you cancer. But actually, if you look at it, 5 years on HRT, I think there might be 4 extra cancers after 5 years, whereas obesity, if obesity causes, I think it's like over 40 new cancers.
Wow.
So like drinking more than a bottle of wine per week, it really increases your risk of cancer. Obviously, we know the smoking, they're the obvious ones.
Yeah.
But yet, the negative comes with the HRT when it's teeny tiny.
Yeah.
So it's all information.
Interesting.
Some people want to hear it, some people are like, no.
Yeah, and I would imagine, stuff like social media then as well, those kind of things kind of go spread like wildfire, don't they?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so there can be misconceptions about stuff, which is fair enough. So, and it's good to hear.
Yeah. So what are you doing actually in H&V with the EDI? You're hugely involved in that, Claire.
Yeah, so we only kind of started this last year. So again, like equality, diversity, inclusion, again, hasn't really been around for terribly long. So I started my role in 2023, and I thought, I feel it's a very diverse environment. Like we have so many amazing cultures working with us, people from everywhere all over the world. I don't know how many countries, employees we have from different countries, but there's a lot. And I thought, like, why aren't we celebrating this diversity? And I thought, when I came into the company, the welcome I felt, and I'd be a little different. I'm a little out there sometimes, but I've never felt so welcome in my life as I did when I came into H&MV. And I thought, this is fabulous. And I thought, I really want to celebrate this and highlight it, So that was the idea behind the first Equality, Diversity, Inclusion month that we did last year. So it was kind of introducing the area of EDI to the company. So we did a week on physical disabilities. So I got a wheelchair in to some of the offices, and I got people to go around in a wheelchair for like an hour or two out of the day, whoever wanted to do it. And it was really good because it would just brought awareness. Like, what would it be like if I had a wheelchair in work? Can I go to the toilet? Can I get a cup of coffee? Can I reach the cups? This kind of thing, But it's all about spreading awareness and just starting the conversation. We had a talk from Irish Guide Dogs for the Blind as well. They came in and they did a talk for us. So there was 2 people, Lane and Peter were their names. They both have different levels of visual disability, and they both work full time. So it was telling us about how they found a job and what it's like to work and that kind of thing. Then we did a week on neurodiversity. We're working in engineering, so we would have a higher than normal average of people who are neurodiverse that work with us, just by nature of the work that we do. So it's important to bring awareness to that, but not the negative aspects. It's more like, well, what can neurodiversity bring to the table? So like, they can think outside the box, they can move meetings along. There's so many different positives. It's not what it was maybe 20 years ago when you think of neurodiverse and you think somebody that's really advanced on the autism spectrum that just can't interact how we normally interact, that kind of way. We did a week on, it was 4 weeks altogether, and the last 2 were about LGBTQ. So we had Donal Cusack come in. So I think we're quite a hurling company. We love the old hurling.
Very sport oriented, I suppose.
Sport orientated. So there's a huge kind of activity around the Interfirms Hurling Championship every year and stuff. So I thought we'll bring Donal Cusack to come in, and he talked about coming out as when he was on the Cork senior hurling team as being gay, which I thought was huge because that was years ago. He came out and he had such a lovely story. It was just fabulous, and I thought it really spoke to our staff and where they were at the time. So this year, what I want to do with it, I think we've kind of encouraged it throughout the year, but this year what I really want to do is start the conversations. We're aware of these issues now, but I want to it's okay to talk about things. It's okay to have conversations. So that's what I really want to do this year. So we did culture last week, which was fabulous. We had a culture kind of food day. So people came in and brought all of their food, and people stood around the kitchen and all the different nationalities, just talking together and trying each other's food. It was just lovely. And we're doing the Women's Health Week. We're also doing another week on neurodiversity. I've got a guy coming down from Dublin to do a talk on how we can be more neuro-inclusive. and we have a week on LGBTQ. So I have, again, it's trying to really start the conversations and develop this along a little bit further. So there's a guy from Belong To coming down from Dublin to give us a talk about allyship. And because we didn't grow up with this stuff, you know, like when we were growing up, there was no talk about them or any kind of pronoun talk or anything like that. So it's all about how are we gently curious? How can we be gently curious? You know, and like literally it's about, you can ask questions, but in a nice way that's not putting someone off guard. So that's what we're doing. So it's good. And it's a really important area, and I really hope it continues as well.
Brilliant. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I suppose historically in H&MV engineering, we always, you know, I suppose health and safety was a huge thing, but now we're after adding the wellness piece onto it as well, and that's a huge part of it for us, because as you were saying, Claire, we have a huge amount of diversity, huge amount of different cultures in the business now, in different regions, and we can't just all be, I suppose, you know, white, Caucasian, Catholic people as we are here in Ireland. We have to be inclusive, we have to change. So that's a huge part of it. And as you say, it's about, I suppose, making people feel really, really comfortable that they can be part of the H&MV family, we call it. That whatever part of the world you're from, or whatever your background is, you can feel welcome, and you can work happily, and you can work safely, and feel happy about your job and contribute, and that's really important to us. You know, so that's, and it is, but it's evolving. You know, I suppose we're at the start of the journey, I suppose, Claire, on it, and so we've a lot done, but I suppose we've more to do as well. And chats like this, I suppose, help as well. You know,
definitely. Because like as we said, like a lot of like, while we have 17% women in H&MV, everyone in H&MV has a mother or maybe a sister or an aunt that will all go through menopause at some time in their life. So it's important to have these conversations, so that people know what's out there, I suppose, as well. And I suppose, Aisling, why do you feel it's important to talk about menopause?
Well, just like you said there, every woman, it's inevitable. It's not like it might happen, it is going to happen. So that's 100% of us are going to experience those symptoms. And out of that, 80% will have symptoms and 20% will have a horrible time. Yeah. So it's just to recognise what the symptoms are. Like sometimes women would come into us and they literally think they're going mad. You know, their confidence is gone. They've gained a lot of weight. 2 stone, by the way, is the average weight gain in menopause.
Wow.
They have this brain fog. So they're, you know, at the top of their game at their meeting, and then all of a sudden they can't remember your name, and like that's real. And then the panic and the anxiety that comes with that. Not sleeping is a huge one. Just if they fall asleep, then they wake up and they're awake for hours at night, and then expect to get up in the morning, go back into work in your family or whatever it is that you do. Lots of things like that. But yeah, the brain fog, the weight gain, libido, huge one, literally can fall off a cliff. And then all like the backlash and that on your relationship, and depending on then, you know, the communication already with you and your partner, it can be really, really a tricky time for women and men, you know, to navigate together. You know, they'll say it's a little bit like in puberty, you know, like we all went through puberty, and say when I was 13, 14, I got away with slamming the door, you know, and shouting and heading off and being a little bitch, whereas I was never. Never. Whereas it's something similar, but you don't get away with that when you're 47.
Yes.
You know, well, with the kids maybe you could, but you can't do that at work. So it's pretty tricky for women, and it's even just to recognise nowadays to go, oh, what's that word, perimenopause? I've heard about it. I wonder, is that what's going on here? Because even still, people would say, oh no, I don't have any hot flushes, but we just know that's only one symptom of menopause. And lots have no hot flushes, or they have them that it doesn't bother them at all. Now some are drenched, and it is absolutely, it's awful for them. But lots, like I said, weight gain, libido, brain fog, anxiety, confidence, it all just can just take a dip.
And I suppose like all those symptoms are like, you could be going through a stressful time and you could think that's your anxiety. Do you know, like you mightn't automatically, and especially if you're younger, that might be the last thing you think about is menopause.
And we would say that all the time. Nothing like menopause doesn't occur in a vacuum. So all that's going on too. We all have stressful lives, be it, you know, parents, kids, work, whatever. And then you throw the menopause on top of it. So it's all a bit of a mix, and it's not one thing is going to fix everything. And it's a real, when you're going through menopause, it's a real lifestyle, you know, lifestyle, diet, exercise, and maybe you might need a bit of help with maybe some medication as well, you know, in terms of the hormone medication. But that's not a must. We would say lifestyle, diet, exercise is number one. So there's no point, you know, if say smoking before you go to, you know, every day, or drinking a bottle of wine every night, and then saying, oh, I'm pushing on weight and I have terrible hot flushes. You're saying, yeah, like the alcohol, the smoking, the no exercise is not going to help. So it's a real, and there's no judgment, like it's just literally just being honest, having honest conversations, that if to do the absolute best for yourself, you need to work on those pieces as well, and then maybe add in the hormones and see can we help. But a little bit again with social media, you might be led to believe that HRT is going to solve all your problems in the world. No, it's not. It's one piece of the jigsaw.
That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
Honest to God, for looking at social media.
That it would solve.
I swear to God.
No.
Oh, it's like a magic pill. Like.
No.
Yeah, I literally thought you have menopause, okay, go on HRT and you're fine.
Yeah, it's one piece, and it is amazing for some women. But a lot of what I do now, when I ring ladies maybe 4 months when they're on, nothing is fast with hormones, everything is slow. So I ring them at around 4 months on their new regime, and sometimes they're like, yeah, I'm a little bit, not sure. You know,
you don't get the warm fuzzy feeling that
they're disappointed. But
Okay.
we try in the beginning just to say, look, this is one piece, but all the other pieces like need to be worked on as well.
Yeah. Is there a timeline, Aisling, as regards the process, we call it, right?
It's a really good question.
And excuse my ignorance here, but like from kind of start, from symptoms to, you know, when you start coming out of it.
Yeah.
Or is it a constant?
As long as it's a piece of string. So you'll have a lady who'll be, oh God, I'm postmenopausal, and she genuinely would have no symptoms. That would be rare. And some ladies have a horrendous time. Again, that's only the 20%, so it's not too high. But they say around 7 years.
Right.
But sometimes when ladies look back, they'll say, oh my God, I thought I was going mad in my early 40s, and now I realise it was perimenopause. So most will come out of it. 51 is your average age of menopause. And if you're under 45, it's called an early menopause. And if you're under 40, it's a premature. So if you're under 40 and you're menopausal, you know, you really need to be seeing your GP about that, because you are lacking in the hormones, and long term, that's not good for your health. So that would really be, you know, your GP is your best friend with all of this, you know. So to answer your question, Mike, I don't know. And then you'll have a referral into our clinic now, and a lady in her 70s, or, you know, and the GP is saying, I can't prescribe any more HRT, and she's going, I will absolutely lose my mind if I can't have it, because she's still absolutely struggling.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, you know, pregnancy. Somebody gets pregnant very, very quickly. Some people have to wait a long time. It happens, it doesn't happen. Women and hormones are very poorly understood worldwide, and then it's just, it has to be individualised care.
Very good. Very good. So we have a few questions from employees as well that have gotten onto us. So we have a lot of questions around the use of HRT. Can you tell me, what does HRT stand for? Yeah, hormone or replacement T therapy. It sounds so easy now that you say it.
HRT, hormone replacement therapy. And it comes in different forms. So it's your estrogen and your progesterone. And then sometimes we'll talk about testosterone as well, but I'll park that for a minute. So estrogen, when you're missing your estrogen, that's where you get most of your horrible symptoms from. So, you know, you might like to replace it. And we know a patch, most people will get either a patch, it would be called transdermal, and transdermal means via the skin. So it might be a gel you put on, it might be a spray, or it might be a patch of HRT. And then if we give you estrogen, we have to mind your womb. This might be getting a bit too far out, but might mind your womb. And to mind your womb, we have to give you progesterone. So if you remember science, you know, your estrogen and your progesterone, you know, you can't give one without the other. If your wound is intact, you need your progesterone as well. So then you also have a patch, a tablet, or marinas. A lot of women have marina coils. and that will protect your womb while you're on your estrogen as well. So they're the most kind of types of forms that we will prescribe of the HRT.
And does that depend on someone's symptoms, what you would prescribe?
Absolutely. So I suppose we're guided by the British Menopause Society, and everything we do is, the guidelines are and recommendations are from them, and our training is with them as well. And nowadays it's not, like I said earlier, it's not a one size fits all. And often a lady might say, oh, my sister now, she's on this, and she feels great, so I want it. So, but you just have to bring it back down to what you need, what your symptoms are. And that's why, like, it would be, a good probably 40-minute consultation to figure out what exactly are your main problems, and what your background history is, what your family history is, and what level we go in at. And we can have a chat then about how, we're always looking for the minimal effective dose.
Yeah.
And again, like I said earlier, nothing is fast. So sometimes, after a couple of weeks, oh, it's not working, I think I'll go up further. You're like, no, pause, just do about 3-4 months, and then we'll see if we go up. So, that's kind of what we do.
Cool. And then testosterone, where does that come?
Testosterone. So again, on social media at the moment, testosterone is a buzzword, and it seems to be women have testosterone as well as men. But the only reason we're allowed at the moment in Ireland to prescribe testosterone to women is for libido. Okay. And we don't have a women's product. We don't have a women's testosterone in Ireland, so we have to use the man's product. So if you, there's gels and stuff, but we can only, we're a little bit off-piste when we use it, but it's a teeny tiny amount that you use. You need to get your blood levels checked. It's not like you just can't go into the pharmacy, buy it and lash it on and hope the libido is, amazing. It doesn't work like that. Then other women will say anecdotally, what they'll feel is that, they can feel a little bit better in themselves on testosterone. They feel their mood's a little bit better. They might feel that their anxiety is a bit better, but there's no research to actually support that. So we have to be very clear in the clinic. We prescribe it for libido. However, we say to give it 6 months, but the majority of ladies, they'll say, doesn't really help. So they'll stop it, because everything has side effects, and you never want somebody taking anything that they don't need if they're not getting a benefit from it. So that testosterone is definitely another chat with your GP, right. But you need bloods, and it needs to be monitored. Yeah.
Very good. Another question, I think, coming in from some people, I suppose, that Claire would have chatted about, is any natural remedies that people can take?
So I suppose if you walk into any chemist now, you will be bombarded with brand after brand after brand, and it'll say menopause and perimenopause and all the rest of it. So the big thing, I suppose, to get across is there is no scientific, medical, good research to say this is brilliant, take this one. So we never recommend any of those, but we don't take it if you want, if you get me. You'll have people who'll say you should be getting all your nutrients from your diet and a good healthy diet, and basically what you're doing there is paying for a very expensive urine, because if you're eating properly, you're peeing it out. Yeah. However, there's lots of women who are on some of those those over-the-counter supplements, and they genuinely feel a good bit better on it. Mm. So what we'd say is, if it's not contraindicated, from if you had a different, again, I'll go back to the breast cancer. If you have a history of a breast cancer, estrogen is what you're missing. So obviously, if you can get estrogen in any of those supplements, you may feel better, but you shouldn't be on it. So it's a bit of quite a grey area, and I would never especially if you have a past medical history of something tricky, I would definitely talk to your healthcare provider before I take any of those supplements. But like I said, lots of women take them and they're delighted. So, but
each to their own a bit.
Each their own, and just make sure it's not contraindicated. And if you're not getting a benefit, give it 3 months. If you're not getting a benefit, then don't be spent. They're about €30 a bottle and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah. Whereas now the HRT is free as of the 1st of June. Okay. So brand new. The initiative, we actually that was meant to come in last year, but it has taken a little bit of time. So free HRT now. So any of the ladies who are on those drugs, they'll be now able to get them for free, which is great.
That'll
Because
help
it was about €50 a month, give or take, for
Oh,
all
okay.
your concoction of drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
And that'll help to raise the profile, obviously, then as well, of
Yeah.
treatment of it. And all.
Yeah. And I suppose then people, like some ladies would say, oh no, I can't afford, I'm only taking that tablet every second night because I don't want it running out because I can't
Yeah.
afford it. But you're like, no, that's, you could do yourself some harm by not taking it the way it's prescribed. So that's definitely, it's a good thing.
Great.
Yeah.
And then I suppose lifestyle-wise, like you mentioned that a bit previously. So what kind of like do I need to see a nutritionist if I'm going through menopause? Should I be able to manage it myself? How does that work?
So lifestyle, diet, exercise, huge, as I was saying earlier. So we all should be getting 30 minutes, 5 days a week. So that's getting out, pounding the roads. So good for your bones, your head, your heart. So that's every one of us. And then, like what we always say is, people say, oh yeah, I bring my dog for a walk. Well, I bring my dog for a walk, and we go, stop. Like you certainly wouldn't be working up a sweat.
Yeah.
But you should be powering on that you're able to talk but not sing. So you should be working. So that's 5 days a week for half an hour. Weights are brilliant. Weights, and there's a lot, I suppose. 2 stone, I was saying to you earlier, is the average weight gain in menopause, and it's very, like, your confidence goes, and the ladies say, God, up to like my middle 40s, I was, I felt grand, but nothing they do now will just help to shed that weight. So sometimes a little bit of weight training can be very good for your bones as well. And that middle fat is so hard. It's women, and men as well, I suppose, get it as well as we all get older. It's really hard to shift. But sometimes the strength training can be helpful as well. But there's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
Again, there's other drugs out there, weight loss drugs. Again, speak to your GP. We don't do that we don't prescribe those drugs in our clinic. But it's definitely worth it if the weight is really getting you down. It's definitely worth a chat with your GP as to what might be suitable for you.
And I know we've kind of talked a lot about kind of Irish examples specifically. I suppose we are quite a global company now. So what kind of supports would be available to like our staff, maybe in Europe or the UK, anywhere that they can go to get support on these things as well?
So the website, like I said, we're governed by the UK, the British Menopause Society. There's also an American society as well that we use. So there, I'll send you the link actually. Again, as we were chatting earlier about the social media, there's so much misinformation, and a lot of the posts you'll read in social media is about somebody's personal experience. As you said earlier, what's right for one person isn't right for the other person. So there's one, it's called the Women's Health Concern. So that's an online forum. It comes from British Menopause Society, and that's where we advise all our ladies to look up. That particular one. It's evidence-based and up to date. Yeah, so that's the one I would use for anyone in the company who's not in Ireland. It's the English one, and we all use it. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Good stuff. One last question, I suppose, Aisling. We're probably close to wrapping up. From a male perspective, how can we support?
Yeah, it's a tricky one as well for you, and it's hard because sometimes we don't know what's going on. So how you're meant to know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can imagine.
It can.
Thanks for feeling our pain.
Yeah. So I think if you we'd often laugh in the clinic, and again, you're talking about the libido and things like that, and the women will just say, like, you just empty the dishwasher, and if you just, sometimes doing those little jobs, those practical jobs around the house. And then it's communication. Yeah, and I think it's, as men, listening to some of these podcasts or reading just a little bit, like they don't need to get into, if they don't want to, like read hours and hours, but just have a general idea that we're not gone mad, but we do feel like we're going mad sometimes. And like if we're awake half the night with anxiety, it's hard for you to understand, sure, that's ridiculous what you're worried about, because that's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're like, you can't get it out of your head. So really would be talking, being patient, and as we say, like things like holding hands, having a chat, eye contact, and just maybe going for a walk together, things like that. It's not all about the libido and that side of things. It's about getting the other stuff kind of working. But as we know, communication, talking is huge. But yeah, informing yourself a little bit is probably what the men could do as well. Yeah. And to be fair, There's nothing in school taught about menopause.
Yeah.
There's nothing in college. I'm a nurse, obviously, and the word was never mentioned. I was recently back in college, did a master's, and menopause was not mentioned once in anything that we did.
Wow.
It's mad, isn't it?
That's insane.
I
Yeah.
know my own daughter is doing the Leaving Cert actually at the moment, and I
Yeah.
just asked her, and she said
No.
nothing about it in biology or anything.
No,
like that.
there's not.
Yeah.
There's not. And that needs to change as well. So then, you have doctors going through medical school who never learn about it. And then they have these, women in their, whatever, 40s, 50s, and they just, that's not their fault. They haven't been educated on it. It is changing. But like I said, last year I was in college, and part of what I was doing was drugs prescribing. So I learned how to prescribe drugs for cardiac drugs, respiratory drugs. And I was like, what about, hormones? They were like, oh no, we don't do that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
So that needs to change as well. And just a little bit back in the lifestyle, diet and exercise, just to the alcohol is a huge one as well.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we don't realise when we are drinking too much. So 11 units per week, which actually when you boil it all down, 1 bottle of wine per week. Because I think some women are definitely, sorry, I'm focusing on women, I don't meet men in the clinic.
We drink wine too.
They'll say I'm not being diverse because I keep talking about women. 1 bottle of wine per week, no more.
Right.
So that's, I think a lot of women are like, oh, is that, so that's all what we actually should be having. And that's for overall health and risks of cancer as well, and weight gain and all of that. Obviously smoking is a big no-no, vaping, big no-no, we all know that. And then it's just to make sure you're up to date with your screenings and do your own breast checks every month. And anything funny at all, in terms of any lumps, bumps, funny bleeding, anything like that, GP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great.
Great stuff.
Thank you very much for coming in, Aisling. We
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it. That was great. I've learned a lot from today, so we really appreciate it. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a million, actually. Well done. Good stuff.
Thanks.